Hey everyone, I wanted to do a quick lecture on the secrets of the tribe. Now, obviously, I've never been there, but here I am on a bus in rural Colombia, right next to Venezuela. And it gets pretty dicey out there, but I did not see anyone fighting, as we will talk about with the secrets of the tribe. Really quick, this is an example of ethnography, but as a lot of people stress, the way not to do ethnography. So it's basically active participation, not just an observation where the researcher goes in. Gagnon, his name's slipping my mind, and he actually lives with the Yanomami people, right? So the first thing you should note on this, without getting into the controversial aspects, is to what extent is this research? Well, think about it. He wants to ask a research question. Why is there so much warfare between the different tribes? That's the hypothesis. He comes up with the conclusion that it's attributable to women. They want more women. But then the other researchers come in and they say that they disagree with that. So they have another hypothesis. What's the hypothesis? The hypothesis is meat, protein, etc. So they have a hypothesis, and then they disconfirm that hypothesis and come back with another hypothesis. Very interesting. So right there, you have research. You also have what is called grounded theory. That is the idea you go in with very little knowledge into any situation, not necessarily ethnographic, but it can be like in this case. You go in and you let the data speak to you. So you basically are in there, and he's basically taking all these notes, the numbers, and all this stuff. So it's very, very interesting. So what's the method? It's basically ethnographic, but yet it's positivist. That is cause and effect. Why are they having wars? The cause is women, to get women from the other tribes. Then someone else goes in there, disconfirms this theory, and then says, no, it's because of meat. Then you also see what's interesting. So you could take two ways to look at this. It's also interpretive methods. How is this Yanomami people being socially constructed? On the one hand, you've got Shagnon's argument that they're the fierce people, very fierce. The other one was Sting, the Mormon Tabernacle Choir. Oh, they're so peaceful, they're this. So you have these two kind of narratives competing, which is basically based on interpretive methods. So it's both interpretive methods. If you look at it, how are the Yanomami people socially constructed? And two, you have a more positivist cause and effect hypothesis testing if you go in with the research question, why are they fighting? So you see both ways of seeing the world are valuable, and it's done through this ethnography. Very, very important. And then you get into the ethics of this, where that other researcher, his name's slipping my mind, and I don't want to remember because he married that girl that was like 12 years old. So you start asking yourself, wow, this is like really bad. And why do I think this is important? We did the Zombardo. Oh, I butchered his name so many times, and I'm still going to do it. I always butcher people's names, but I remember other things. Getting involved in the prison experiment and his somewhat unethical activity to get certain results. Now you have this very unethical behavior of, you might call it pedophilia, where he marries this like 12-year-old girl. I mean, who knows how old she is when he's down there in Venezuela. Why do I? Oh, and then he says, oh, that's, very, I forget what he says, but to criticize me, that's like US centric or US bias, or Gagnon, if you watch the whole entire video, looks at the camera like this is crazy. And then Gagnon himself, the first researcher, went in there, and there is some controversy about him, controversial aspects about whether he allowed other researchers to go in and upset the tribe, whether they were taking blood from the tribe without them knowing what they were going to do with it. Did he get too involved? There's just a wide range of different questions on his side for ethics. Why do I bring up ethics and researchers? Well, it is true. You see all these researchers, right? And we have the tendency, like we do, like with religious figures, political figures and stuff sometimes, to revere people. And at the same time, they're just people, and there's a lot of unethical things going on. And we have to consider that. I mean, look at the hunting ground where why did all these liberal institutions cover up sexual assault, and professors themselves have committed acts of sexual harassment, sexual assault. I protested one that came out here who did a little sexual harassment from Harvard. There's another guy that took his own life at University of Iowa who was sexually harassing women. So, one of the things is why do social movements develop? It's against kind of this unethical behavior so we can be better people in general. Look at Jeffrey Epstein. You probably know who he is. He was actually, I remember even as a little kid, knowing who he was because, there were jokes about him because he was basically giving all this money to Harvard professors, but people knew what he was doing with these young girls and the Lolita Express and all this stuff, if you know the story of Jeffrey Epstein. So there's a lot of unethical activity out there, and can we make the world a better place by openly talking about it and, addressing it? So I think this has these documentaries has a broad range of value. On the one hand, we do it research, right? Just looking at the secrets of the tribe. This is ethnography, right? And then hypothesis testing, which is positivism, cause and effect. You've got a hypothesis, an alternative hypothesis. And then you've got interpretive methods, how we socially construct the Yanomami people. But again, as it continues, we have the question of ethics, the hunting ground, Zimbardo kind of entering into the research to get certain results. There's also a lot of professors out there that have plagiarized, etc. And, we obviously get this extreme, because there's also levels of unethical behavior. Not everything is horrible, right? You just shouldn't have maybe gotten involved in this research because you wanted a certain result. But, now when you see a researcher down there and he marries a 12-year-old, this the power structure between this, gringo researcher that goes down there and, meets this this young girl who's, kind of naive, obviously, in this rural area, barely touched by other people. I mean, there's a huge unethical issue here, right, with certain power structures. So, you got to think of that. And if we understand these kinds of activities, can we make the world a better place and address it, like with the hunting ground, I think. So thanks for listening, everyone. These documentaries are valuable to see how we study the world. Remember, I understand that this class is a little difficult, like what's the point of the class? But the point is to kind of see the different ways we do research, interpretive methods, positive and qualitative methods. I just said grounded theory. You go in with no knowledge. That's one characteristic. And then you let the data speak with you and you kind of develop a theory. And that's what Chagnon was doing when he was down there. And then there's this whole thing about ethical behavior, how we treat people, how we treat the researchers. The whole prison experiment that he traumatized those students who were traumatized probably for the rest of their lives. And the same thing with that shorter video, what you saw that was very interesting on commercialism and sexism and how we socially construct women. So, seeing how we see the world. And I hope this didn't give you too much, make you too dizzy back there. But it was pretty interesting going through these rural areas. And I can say I was never kidnapped by the FARC paramilitaries or anyone else. So I did get very, very lucky. Okay, take care, everyone. If you have any questions, just drop them in community forum.